just stabbed 2 black inmates during the race war in Folsom and San Quentin. And I came back to the SHU and they started grooming me. They started talking to me, educating me, and I kind of understood, like, this is how we want you to be, and don't change your personality, don't get headstrong, don't let your ego get to, take control of you, because everybody goes through those growing pains when you're inducted, But they had Sloppy, Corwin Elmore sponsor me into the organization. It was 1985, in May of 1985, they inducted me into the organization. I made my bones.
How did that make you feel?
Oh man, I never wanted to be a mafia member. It wasn't in my plan to go out and be a mobster, because I thought everybody with a brocha and tattoos and yoked out. When I first got to prison, I looked at them, oh man, he's got to be a mafia guy. And they weren't. It was just the normal guys that I met. Like, those were the real through and through killers, right? And I never realized I was one of those guys, that I was putting in work, and I was,
I can see that.
I was an eager beaver. I was jumping at every chance to do anything. But it wasn't with the aspiration of becoming a mafia member. I was representing the hood, I was boxer from Artesia, and I was a camarada and a sureño.
Now, it's evident that your violent skill set was on point, man, and elevated. What about your business mindset and your accelerated thinking and critical thinking skills?
That didn't kick in 2 years later, because I was just dumb.
The fucking torpedo.
Just a torpedo. I was a button. We call him button. He is button because go push that guy's button and you go do it, right?
Oh, I never heard that expression, but it makes sense.
You're a button, you're a hitter, right?
Right.
You're, I think they call them now shooters.
Shooters,
or gunners, right?
Correct.
That's the new terminology. I was just a gunner.
Right.
They'd tell me what to do and, oh, sure. Yeah, doot. And I go and do it. Como pendejo, right?
I get it.
That's who I was. The intellect didn't start till later.
Okay.
Right? I started developing that as I got exposed to more serious Mexican mafia men, right? Like the guys that were reading in-depth literature on political strategy and Eastern philosophy.
Where did you come across those guys?
At Folsom SHU.
Folsom SHU. For some reason, I kind of want to fast forward to the Pelican Bay SHU, but this is way better because this is like the original prior to the Pelican Bay.
This was the big house.
The big house.
This was the big house.
Prison.
Folsom and San Quentin were 2 mafia strongholds, right? They were
who were some of those dudes?
Like Joe Morgan was there, Nico Velasquez was there, Angel Valencia Stump was there, Wedo Shai Shryak, Black Dambarella, Alfie Sosa, and Folsom with me. In San Quentin, you had Cuate Grajeda, you had Richie from El Centro, you had Big Hoss from Clanton, you had Chato Sandoval, you had a bunch of dudes that were heavy hitters, right? These were like the titans of the organization. You heard about these guys, and this was at a time when nobody would say amen. When you did that, you went and whispered to those guys, because it was like an offense to the organization to acknowledge it publicly. So you hear about these guys like mythical figures. Through and through killers. Like these were killers. Like Wedo Shai Shryak. He's a white guy. He's got 1 blue eye, 1 green eye, and he was raised. He's from my neighborhood, Artesia, but the guy's got a bunch of murders under his belt. In fact, because he's white, he had to be more Mexican than the Mexicans. He spoke better Spanish than most of us. Yeah. And he's truly dedicated. Black Umbrella, another guy, really soft-spoken, read the Bible every day, very charismatic, right? And this was at a time when certain carnales made you feel like a brother.
Right.
They made you feel that bond, right? And they made you feel that there was no wrong that you could do unless you violated one of the hard rules, Then they'd have to whack you. But even then, you could violate the rules.
Right.
Depending on who you had behind you, you could do whatever you wanted.
Did they view you as a youngster? Were you a youngster?
I was a kid. I was 22 years old when I got made.
So they were clearly older.
Oh yeah, they were all in their 40s at that time.
So they probably respected the fact, hey, this young kid, he has heart. He has, he's willing to go the extra mile for us.
Yeah, that was the prerequisite, is that it used to be called the death row mentality. You got to be willing to kill and go to death row for the organization. That's the thing they look for. But everybody can do that. Women kill.
But not everybody does that.
Not everybody does it, right? But if you look at it literally, women can kill, transgenders can kill, kids kill, and that doesn't qualify them for membership. So you have to have something, some kind of magnetism, some kind of quality that's going to further the objective of the organization. And somebody has to see that, like a made guy has to sponsor you.
Right.
So clearly, there was something in me that attracted them. I don't know what it was, because I didn't see it.
Now, was there correspondence between Folsom and San Quentin?
Oh, yeah.
Mexican mafia members?
Yeah.
How was that, through letters?
Yeah, letters and visits. This was the old donkey system, right? Where one visitor would have to go visit one person, then call their wife, and then they go visit that person, or a letter. This is back in the day when we could correspond between inmates freely. A lot of it was done that way. And they would use this kind of carnival talk, what I call carnival talk.
Right.
But I mean, the true definition, the legal definition, is informal gang code. And that's a manner of communication in which two people are predisposed to understand the underlying content. Off camera, you were telling me about a letter about an incident in RJD that involved a Mexican mafia member by the name of Yoda. And
Right.
a letter was intercepted talking about Star Wars. That's literally informal gang code, right? There's plausible deniability in it, so the guy can say, I was talking about Star Wars.
Yeah.
But they're literally talking about killing people, right?
Correct.
So we would use that kind of communication, particularly in vetting and voting and the induction process. It was basically done through letters.
Now, were sureños a thing at that point in time?
You know, sureños were not a thing at the time. You became a sureño. It was in its nascency, like it was in its birth. Like you were a Southsider. A Southsider was literally somebody from South Los Angeles, right? Like from Compton, Willowbrook, or South Los. Those gangs, Harpies, that's South Los Angeles. Those
Okay.
are Southsiders.
Right.
Those are the righteous Southsiders. Now it's become a blanket term that encompasses everybody. And sureños were guys just from the South, right?
Right.
But that has since morphed into everybody's a Southsider or a sureño. A sureño is a guy who's adopted the ideology of the organization and voiced a willingness or participated in the violence for the organization, right?
Right.
Those are like camaradas, right? But they're still not camaradas.
Right.
There's another level, it's camaradas.
But at what point did it morph into the birth of sureños where the members were now utilizing them?